Hello.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
Good. We just talked. I'm gonna try to get my head backed up. I kind of got into the
Yeah.
camera. I try to make my head the same size as yours, so we
Oh
have the
boy.
same size. Okay,
Yeah.
no, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah.
Um, so it usually takes people a little bit of time to join, and so you know, but before we get drawing, I just wanted to say hi. And any other things you want to say about afterlife, the beliefs about that? I know that's a heavy question in a way.
Yeah.
And my other questions were even weirder, not
Yeah.
weirder, but more heavy. I was like, I try to keep it light, but I was trying to figure out how do we talk about some of this stuff? Because I
Yeah.
thought, well, I could ask the question, what do you think of when you think of the underworld? And I thought, well, people say mafia, right?
Yeah. I really liked the fourth stimulus check. I was very into that.
Yeah. I say that's a new lease on life, is what I would
Yeah.
say. Although they're not that big,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess that's like a popular question that's on the Google sphere. So who knew?
Yeah. Hmm.
Shall we draw
Yeah.
or
You know,
doodle?
yes,
Uh huh.
let's doodle. I do have a confession. I don't
Okay.
actually um, draw on paper or pencil or anything like that. I do SketchUp. That's how I
Oh, great,
doodle. Yeah, so
great.
I'm gonna be so do I I'm gonna point my phone to my laptop. Is
All
that
right.
is that what we're
No,
supposed to do? Or am I
yeah,
supposed to be
you can
facing
do
it?
it.
Okay.
Well, I have a structure that's loose, but I let people do whatever they want, so that's fantastic, and I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like I had someone working on highlighters. Sometimes I draw on magazines. It's like whatever. It doesn't even have to be paper. So
Yeah.
I love that your sketch is actually electronic.
Yeah, that's just how I draw. So like
Fantastic.
yes.
So this
So
usually takes me some time. I'm gonna kind of redirect my camera, and we'll get started. So what I do is I have this armature here. There it is. And
oh
then I
nice.
put my camera, yeah, I put my camera in there. $40 from Amazon, even
That's
though,
great.
yeah, excited. And then so you're you're actually looking at my wall. And then I just do a little of this. So we got the paper in there. There's no paper in there. Oh, that's me. All right. So this is very professional, as you can see.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. There's the
All
paper.
right. Hmm. I wonder, I'm I thought I could do it on the side. I'm like, can you see it or is that too awkward? Or is this better? I'll do this.
Let's
Oh, I guess
see.
you can't really tell.
I see something, but let's ask the people in the comments because it's a little hard sometimes for me to see when I'm doing this at the same time. So, folks in the studio audience, can you see Azza's screen? Could you put something in the comments? Let's see. I mean, yes, I'm seeing something. I'm definitely seeing the top of your screen. So
Oh,
that's one thing is, like I see the top of your screen and I'm seeing some, okay, some architecture. You could put,
yeah.
yeah, there you go. There's more. All
Okay.
right.
Okay. I have like a
Fri
pillow behind me. I mean,
uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
got like a lap desk off of Amazon because that's also how I work. I work horizontal. I'm always
Okay.
like on
Love
like the
it.
couch or bed, like writing essays or proposals and like yeah, just like on the computer. So I have this really
Okay.
awkward setting with a a like a couch cushion behind me trying to
Oh.
prop up my phone. So I can't see anything. So if it falls over or something, somebody let me know.
We'll let you know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely cool.
Okay.
You could probably aim your camera a little bit lower onto your screen.
Like, oh,
And oh,
uh, went a little too
okay.
far.
So while Oz and I are getting set up, I recommend that people grab some ways to make a mark and join us. All right. Looks like, hey, looks like you're set up. Cool.
Okay, cool.
All right. And I just sometimes I have to look a little bit at the monitor, but just to get started. But and do you? So you or you? So it's like when. So are you kind of considering what you do drawing, or is this more like a doodling that you do with your sketch?
Um, they're like drawings and doodles because I can just like control Z. There's something that feels a lot more fluid
Uh huh.
by just being able to yeah, just like control Z erase something. So it
Uh
feels
huh.
like in its own way there's less pressure than being on paper.
Ah,
Um, I
interesting.
get really intimidated by paper. Um,
That's interesting.
so
I love it.
that's just like my thing. And I've always been like that. I remember being an undergrad and drawing was like part of like when we did projects, we'd have to um, show our sketches and our thoughts and stuff like that. But I'd always work backwards. I would have already, I kind of, everything kind of crystallizes in my head. And
Uh huh.
then I create whatever it is. And then I
Uh huh.
do sketches after just as like support materials to hand
Uh
in.
huh. Oh,
And
that's
so,
interesting.
yeah, but with like SketchUp, that's changed like the way that I work where I don't necessarily have to spend all the time in my head. Like I can just go ahead and start sketching in space and just
Yeah.
control Z if it's, yeah,
Right.
so it feels like doodling and drawing at the same time for me.
I am a fan of not having an eraser only because I have to commit to what's on the page, and
Yeah,
I kind of like that. Um, and I also work really fast, so
yeah.
uh, that's kind of the thing I like. What you're talking about reminds me a little bit of. I used to work at a design firm in my 20s. I had many jobs, and people probably heard about them on Doodle with me. I try not to repeat myself, but I did work for a design firm. It was a well-known design firm, and they came up with usually two or three final designs. So, for instance, they had the Pepsi when they reinvented the Pepsi can. They came up with a new Pepsi design. They'd come up with a few designs, and then they afterwards, after they decided on the ones they liked, they went backwards to figure out like how to make it look like they evolved the design through many different iterations,
Mm,
so that when the client was there they saw the work that was involved in thinking it through, and also that the they could see where the choices that they had come up with were the best choices, so that the
yeah,
client wouldn't look at some other things and go, we like that, and be like,
yeah,
well, we've already worked through it.
yeah.
Um, so that's kind of interesting.
That is very
Now,
interesting. That's like kind of how
yeah,
I operate.
yeah.
hmm
And so did you see the moon last night? Because
I did not
you
see the
did not.
moon. Was
Yeah,
it spectacular?
it was a big, yeah, it was a very big, glistening, sparkling, very round one. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And I just was wondering yeah, if you had seen it, because it was pretty great. But you had gone to Joshua Tree recently,
Yes,
and
I
kind of
did.
curious about what that was like for you.
It was really amazing. It was interesting in this way where there was this one particular, it overall it was so beautiful. I've never seen vegetation and landscape like that. And
Uh-huh.
granted, I was born in like the Sahara Desert, but I moved when I was really young. So that was, and then there was this part while we were driving through, and I guess coming to Highway 10, where it felt so surreal in the way that you viewed the um, landscape. It felt like you were
Mm-hmm.
sort of like on Mars, where it was like tilted
Mm.
and you were hovering above.
Mm.
It was, yeah, that
Mm.
was just such an amazing experience. I
So
feel
was there
like,
something? was there something going on with the horizon that made you feel like that, or was it
Yeah,
more like, yeah, yeah,
yeah. It was
interesting.
like, I don't know, the horizon and the angle of like coming down the highway.
Uh-huh.
But it was super surreal. Yeah, I never felt like that. And it was, yeah, it was amazing. I always like, uh, it's like you can't compete with nature ever.
No, no, you can't. That's a
No.
really interesting thing. Yeah, yeah, I
Hmm.
had that. I had that experience. Yeah, it's weird because I'm not necessarily a minimalist, but in high school I took LSD.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, those two things are connected.
Yeah.
And I did with the I think the first time I did with an exchange student from Germany, and we saw the sunset, and I remember thinking to myself that the sunset was like so overwhelming that I
Hmm.
felt like I was witnessing something that was just really in really bad taste. Like nature was like overworking it
Yeah.
so much that I felt like it needed to kind of like, for me to deal with it, it needed to kind of like, take a step back a little bit, nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, hold up.
Hold it. I am way overwhelmed
Oh, yeah.
right now, and you're making me feel all kinds of things I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
And I just think, can I have a little bit at a time?
Yeah.
So sometimes I've had those feelings, when I'm looking at nature.
Yeah.
And, uh, and what I've kind of discovered was not really that I'm a minimalist, but that I'm kind of, that when it comes to color, too much color can be too much for me. Although
Yeah.
lately I've been into it. But now Joshua Tree is interesting too because it when I used to go there with my last life partner when I lived in LA,
Hmm.
and we we would go there to 39 Palms, I think. I don't know if
Oh.
and it's like a little, there's like an inn, has but it's in Joshua Tree. Maybe it's a little outside of it, and there's these little cabins that you can go to.
Hmm.
But what was interesting about it was we took mushrooms, and it again too overwhelmed.
Yeah. I could see that for sure.
All
Did
those
you
rock formations with like crazy faces and all.
did you have to like end up just like getting under the covers and just like turning
No,
everything
it's
off?
yeah, it was he. If it was just a moment, I forget. It's so funny because he generally was the one that was kind of more anxious, but
Hmm.
I think I did pretty good. I think what ended up happening was I saw that and I felt like all kinds of like emotions at the time. Thinking, I think sometimes the desert makes me think a lot about decay and kind of
Yeah.
passing, and
Hmm.
um, and that I was I think I was experiencing those things with the 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 mushrooms. I may have
Yeah.
taken too many, but anyway, in the long run, then things were fine, and then I saw a UFO, and then that was weird.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, things must have calmed down. We must have gone and got something to eat, which was probably the best thing I could do, was
Yeah.
just eat a little something. But
Hmm.
yeah, you just reminded me of that lovely memory.
Yeah. Yes. That that sounds like a really amazing trip.
It kind of was. I mean, I do still, when I even now, even out in Tucson here, I still see I see figures and faces, and there's actually a word for it too, in rock formations and stuff.
Hmm.
It's like, I think it's something that the human mind kind of does,
Yeah.
to yeah.
I know some of those rock formations just looks like folds of skins and yeah, it's just
Yeah. But that, does that ever come into your work in terms of those experiences in nature, or do you see your work as kind of a completely different place. You know what I'm
Uh,
saying?
yeah, no, I think like, I mean, I'm the thing that is so, I think the things that I'm trying to understand within the work is time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think when I'm in nature, and especially was like in Joshua Tree, it felt really exemplified in this way of just trying to begin to like understand a really expanded time and like
Hmm.
future time as well.
Mm. Like
So,
like the time, like there is no linear time. It's all like simultaneous, or
well, not only that, but then also just like time as in just thinking about how ancient
mm,
those like rock formations
mm,
are, and they like essentially got like pushed up from the ground, like birthed from the ground, um
mm-hmm,
and like the vegetation sort of, and then makes me think of like creation myths and just like
mm,
all this way that we try to make meaning and understand, I guess like understand morality in our existence. And I think when being in a space like Joshua Tree, it begins to heighten like the way to like think about like how things started, and
mm-hmm,
like yeah, I don't know, it's just like yeah, this sort of like yeah, just like thinking about time, linear, also like
mm-hmm,
collapse of time, like creation of
mm-hmm.
like these formations, their transformations, and and then just like a breakdown of particles of like just wondering like where else has that like a grain of that rock, like I probably come across it in Connecticut, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so like it just makes me like
Oh,
think
wow.
about time and like travel and things like that. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, completely interesting. Because when you were speaking, I was also thinking about the sense that sometimes when I'm looking at those rock formations, I'm also seeing them like actually being born in a way. Like
Yeah.
it's like stop action. It's like a freeze frame of a process the Earth has gone through, and yet the Earth is still going through. So in some ways, it's like I'm I'm seeing time in a way that's is from the perspective. It's a lot slower, and is from the perspective of the Earth in terms of it as an organism.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like we're all speed. I mean, for me, at least I'm talking about myself. Like I'm all speedy, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch. But at the same time, the Earth is just like, here I am, just
Yeah.
living my life. But it's super
Yeah.
slow, so you got to slow down to see at least a little bit of it to pay
Yeah.
attention. So it kind of forces you to do that in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, yeah, I do love like road trips. I went on
Yes.
one recently to the Grand Canyon, and that was wild in terms of just rock formations and
Oh wow. I'd
things
love to
being
do
very,
that.
yeah, things being very unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're not unreal. I mean, it is real, but like again, it's removed from human time frame in a way. So
Mm-hmm.
at least for me, it feels that way. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's interesting because if we go back to this idea of the afterlife, maybe it's just a different perception of time that one becomes part of.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's another kind of temporality that is without a body. So maybe it's the temporality of energy. A lot of people seem to be saying that it's about energy, including yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
what led you to think about that? Think about it as energy. Is that something that like you learned, or something you discovered, or?
That's actually a very good question.
And
Well,
you don't have to come up with an answer, by the
yeah,
way. I just kind of say things out loud, and I'm not. I think meaning is accidental, so
yeah,
we'll just talk around it as long as we want.
yeah. Well, I'm like, I'm not a physicist, but I think when I was young, I could never get down with organized religion. I grew up in a Muslim household, but I pretty liberal. Like we would just fast for Ramadan, and my parents would go to the mosque for Eid.
Hmm.
But I just, yeah, I just couldn't get down with organized religion. Um, so for myself, I feel like at one point I was just kind of a hardcore atheist,
Hmm.
where I'm like, this is it, like you just die and you cease to exist. But like one thing I can't, like I think of our bodies like these constant, like these, this like energy that's like constantly pulsing and like working, and like we need fuel in order to maintain it. So if
Hmm.
that's the case, like for myself, that like we are this form of energy that like also requires taking in additional energy, that and the idea that energy never dies, it just like transfers.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I felt that was something that I personally could believe in this way, where that like I like regarding the afterlife for me, I believe, and what I think is this, that like my conscious will seek to exist, but like my energy will like continue to work through this cycle where it keeps like fracturing into multiple forms and just like
Hmm.
continues. So I really loved, I think your father said freedom. Was
Hmm.
it?
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
that's my dad.
that was really beautiful, because I think that in this way, and how um because I think about that within my work as well. Like I think about systems and structures, and how like we exist in as humans in these systems, and this sort of kind of like rat race, and how these structures, it's interesting that, so in ancient Egyptian and Nubian culture, they really understood entropy, like entropy as in like decay and disorder. And that was
Hmm.
their whole thing, was like to try and like slow it down by like
Hmm.
creating these ways to create order, like in favor of rebirth. And
Uh-huh.
so I think about this sort of that like we're like in this system. But I just thought that was so beautiful when your father said freedom, because
Hmm.
it's like a release of being in this sort of like system that we continue to cycle through.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. That just kind of ran
He
through
also
my
talked a
head.
little bit of, yeah, completely. He also talked a little bit about dreams as well, as kind of like that there are like there's these other realms, that there's like dream realms and other realms that and some people believe that we are simultaneously in all these different realms at the same time.
Hmm.
But the body is keeping us in that structure, that system.
Hmm.
And I like to think that my body is free from capitalism. So
Yeah.
that like that I'm not just an object that I'm trying to buy and sell with. I think people, at least I feel like, from what I'm hearing from people, are getting tired of it. It's exhausting.
Yeah,
so
it
so
is.
freedom for me is also kind of like being able to materially control a little bit about my value in the world in a weird way. I mean, now I'm
Hmm.
kind of just going off, so but off subject. But yeah, it's such an interesting thing because there's a lot of ideas at the same time that kind of happen, and it's like they all do connect, but it's like how do you sort them out to make them all kind of connect? Um,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, that was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, we're actually kind of close to our time, but I wanted to
Okay.
say that the Egypt thing, which I'd love to talk to you more about ancient Egypt and all those practices. I haven't read a lot about it. I just read enough to be able to teach like a beginning art history class. But I do remember something about the mourning practices, and that there was a tomb where the the body was buried, and then there was a sculpture that would
Hmm.
sometimes be the communicator for the body,
Yes.
or that there would be a sense that the spirit could communicate to those who are still living through
Hmm.
the sculpture. Does that
Yes.
sound familiar?
Yes.
And I remember thinking that is so cool. It's kind of a little bit like I can communicate to people on Instagram Live, but you all
Hmm.
don't have. And it's kind of a little like this. Like you all don't have to see me, but or we don't have to see each other, but we can still kind of communicate through this other device. And I guess the
Yeah.
sculpture was working in that way too.
Hmm.
Oh, so that is a real thing. Sometimes I'm like, did I make that up?
No, I'm like, you did not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
recall do you remember what the sculpture was of? Was it of the
Um,
person, or was it
yes.
the? Uh huh.
It's
Okay.
usually of the person or the god, you
Yeah.
know? So they would have gods or, yeah, or the person. And they would also write to them um, through pottery. They would write on pottery
Oh, how
and
interesting.
leave it to
That.
their deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was like really, they had this practice that was really in touch with death and like the afterlife.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's that. There's also that in Tucson in terms of Day of the Dead. There's a large parade, and it's a really it is an interesting. It's a great practice. I think it's a very healing practice,
Yeah,
and I really appreciate it since I didn't really grow up with that kind of a practice. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to negotiate that for myself because, um, yeah, there are ways, and it's usually through like religion and culture that you can have this sort of connection with your lost loved ones and just
Uh-huh.
trying to like figure out ways how to um, navigate that, not being embedded in like an organized religion or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. Hmm.
Sometimes I think what's helped me continue to want to make art is the understanding that at some point my art maybe, although it is on paper, but maybe will exist when I don't. And I think
Yeah.
that can be my letter to people, and
Hmm.
that puts a lot of pressure on myself. But then again, I try to remember that you can also just like tell folks jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah. I love that. But I feel like you have a lot of great things, whether it's just jokes or something,
Yeah,
that like
yeah.
really resonates with you. I'd love to like if I was like reincarnated or something, stumble across a piece of yours.
Yeah, now it's encouraged me to just like be in people's homes now,
Yeah.
and like I find that I'm putting eyes in things just in case, like, they don't believe I'm there, that there's still a little eye that can be watching them.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but I have a little bit of a paranoid edge, so that could just be where it's coming from.
Yeah. That's good.
And your work though is has really exists in its own realm, which is I think so exciting and fascinating. And I encourage people who are with us now to go check out Azza's work and see on her feed. Well, thank you for joining
Oh,
and doodling with me.
yeah.
It
Thank
goes
you
by
so
really,
much.
it goes by really fast.
Yeah, it
But
does.
I really appreciate the time
Yeah,
for
thanks
us
so
to
much
talk a
for
little.
having me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just do a little sign off with folks here. Thanks everyone for joining. Doodle with me, in case you didn't hear me at the beginning, is every Friday night, and we always have great guests like Azza, who maybe or may not be artists, just to talk about whatever's on our mind, and often not about art, but it kind of works with the art too. So, it all goes together. I am going to be working on a schedule for July. Yes, July's coming up. I keep forgetting, and we've got a lot of great people too. We're gonna go all over the place with our themes. So thanks again, Azza. I appreciate seeing
Yeah.
you again, and I'm just
Yeah.
happy to reconnect. And yeah, I love your work. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh, thank
yeah.
you so much. Thanks for having me. It was so great to just spend some time with you.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Yeah, and thanks for
Okay.
everyone that joined.
Yes, thanks everybody, and have a
Yeah.
great weekend. And keep an eye out if when time allows, come join us again, and we'd love to see you. Okay,
All
bye.
right. Bye.